initial contact with that client, you know. The person will then be taken by nursing and handed off to that unit, and then we just put their file together. So I think we are the most important folks, right? Because these people are coming in clearly in crisis. Guys, they may not have had the best experience over the last few days, depending on how long they may have sat in a department or a facility with someone else. So it's really important, guys, for you to demonstrate kindness and just being really genuine with them, and remember that they are in their most vulnerable state when they get to you. I can't tell you guys how many times I've had people say to me, "Oh my God, you're so kind." And I will tell you, almost every single patient that I have taken to a unit, if I go back up to that same unit and bring another patient and they see me, they're always like, "Oh my God, I remember you. You were so kind to me." Or people will break down in tears, guys, and just be like, "Thank you so much for just being kind to me." Please, 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 guys, as a clinician, I know it can be hard. I know that time wears on you. And sometimes we get a little bit of abuse from patients, but we have to remember these people are not in a stable state and they need help. And we need to always demonstrate a level of humanity, allow them to, you know, hold on to whatever dignity they have left and not make them feel worse. All right, guys, so now I'm going to talk about my experience and what I've learned. All right. So, guys, what I've learned working in a behavioral hospital, my God, I'm sorry, a psychiatric. What I've learned working in a psychiatric hospital, I have learned so much. I've taken learnings from my peers, of course. I've worked with some lovely social workers. One thing that I find is that I don't always encounter a lot of LPCs in different settings. I don't know if it's because LPCs tend to go a different route with their education. I'm not sure, but in my particular instance, they're few and far between, and I see an abundance of social workers in the settings that I've been in. But in any event, I've learned a lot from my social worker friends. Not because they're social workers, but just because they have worked in the field longer than I have. You guys know that I just recently transitioned full-time into the field, so that's that. So the first thing that I've learned is that you have to take the learning from everywhere. Learn from the presentation of your patients. Definitely make sure that you are diagnosing them appropriately, okay? You're gonna see so much, guys. Whip out your DSM if you need to. Don't assume that certain things are certain things. Make sure that you are seeking supervision. Make sure that you are bouncing things off your peers. Because I think one of the biggest obstacles I faced in the very beginning was just being comfortable that everyone doesn't need to be admitted to the hospital. I don't know if I made it up in my head or what, but I was just thinking, like, in the beginning, if they're coming here, they need to be admitted. And not everyone needs to do that. Guys, even someone who says that they've had suicidal thoughts doesn't necessarily have to be hospitalized. Sometimes people are able to contract for safety. They have enough social support where they can be in a safe environment, and you just need to make sure that they are able to commit to that safety plan and their support system is willing to be that, and that they know what their resources are. Not everyone that comes in with depressive symptoms needs to be inpatient. So it's being able to assess when the severity is there and the person should be admitted. All right, next, what I've learned is Sometimes people are really sick, guys. People are in so much crisis, or their disorders have gone so long without any type of treatment that they may not be ready or able even to discuss what's going on with them. They may not be able to readily identify their triggers. So again, empathy and human spirit is gonna prove to support you well in your role. Gotta get my dog. All right, the next thing I've learned, you need a tough skin. You need a tough skin, guys, because people will call you names. People will curse you out. People will try to intimidate you. People will do anything and everything during their initial assessment process, and you cannot take it personal. You are potentially a target, so toughen up, because it's not about you. You may get people who are uncooperative, people who are not compliant, meaning they don't want to talk. You can get kids who don't want to talk and sit there like this, or they sit there like this. You can get a bunch of things, guys. So again, this is where your clinical spirit comes in. This is where your humanity comes in. This is where your empathy, everything, all the soft skills that you need to have in order to work in this line of work, you need to be able to exercise them and pull them out, and you need to be able to call on those skills at the right time. The next thing, guys, you need to practice sound clinical judgment. If you know that you are about to encounter a patient who is going to trigger you, or there will be some transference, you need to be able to identify that and make a sound clinical decision on how you want to proceed or not proceed with this patient. I can tell you that I have not yet built that clinical muscle to handle certain situations where patients have special needs. I broke down when I had my first one come in, and I did not do this in front of the patient because, again, I'm very self-aware. You know, and of course, while you're doing all of these initial things, right, you're conversing with the patient. If they are a patient who is willing to exchange pleasantries, you're kind of explaining to them what's going to happen and how much time things are going to take. And I stepped into the room and I knew that I would not be able to do it. And so I told my fellow clinicians, I can't do this assessment. And immediately I just burst into tears, and they were like, we knew it. We were just waiting to see what you were going to do. They were waiting for me to say, I can't do this one. And so that was a proud moment. That was a growth moment for me, because it's great that other clinicians know what your limitations are depending on your environment and how closely you work together. But that also too, that I didn't try to pressure through or push my way through that. It would not have been a good experience for the patient. And again, guys, it's not about me. Like, I definitely want to build that muscle, but in crisis situations, that is not the time. It is not the time to try to see, can you do it? You know what I mean? So I appreciate my fellow clinicians for understanding and for even knowing that of me. So just, guys, know when to say when. Practice sound clinical judgment at all times, even if it means that you have to pass up an opportunity for growth directly with the patient. You can get your growth in other ways. Next, paperwork.
Oh my God!
There's a lot of paperwork. I learned a lot about insurances. I've learned a lot about what types of information insurance wants. I've been through situations where insurance will push back and say, well, why did they need to be inpatient versus an outpatient program of some kind? And I've learned how to look through hospital paperwork and pick up on things. And I've learned through the referral process that people will hide information so that they can get you to take a more acute patient off of their hands. So I've learned some of those ins and outs. But paperwork, writing clinical notes, that's a skill that you always have to continuously grow in. And we have to do everything immediately. We do what's called a distribution. So we do several piles of paperwork and copies of paperwork and all of that for all the different areas within our company. So Something is for the insurance verification. Something's for the UM department. Something is for the chart upstairs. And then we keep a chart. You know, so paperwork. If you guys are not electronically based yet, please do that. Your clinicians will be happy. What else can I tell you? Oh, you're going to encounter clinicians that may not need to be clinicians. You guys have heard me say several times in this video that you need to exercise empathy, show people humanity, or be humane. Don't take advantage of people's vulnerabilities, and just be kind, right? There are clinicians who are none of those things. And if you are a good clinician, guys, you will call them out on it, and you will step in, and you will, where it's appropriate, you will maybe handle a particular patient because that person is not kind. And I'll leave it at that. I've also learned that you have to work with a ton of personalities. Guys, I've worked in corporate America forever, right? All of my life. But working in a clinical setting is very different. What's really interesting about a psychiatric hospital, in my opinion and in my experience, is that people will forget and not stay in their lane in terms of what they were school trained to do. You work across multidisciplinary teams when you work in a psychiatric hospital. So you are assigning a psychiatrist to work with these patients because a lot of times there's the medication management. So you assign that doctor in the very beginning, and then there is a nursing team upstairs, and there's also program therapists upstairs that actually work on putting the full treatment plan together for those patients and working with them through that. And it's really interesting when a nurse calls me and tells me that I should have done this or done that from a clinical perspective, and I'm thinking to myself, you went to school for medicine type things, right? I went to school for clinical things. Okay, so if I have somebody who comes in and, let's just say, don't do that, because I don't tell you what types of medicines to hand out or when to contact the doctor and get somebody a PRN. Stay in your lane and I'm going to stay in mine. I've also learned that sometimes, guys, this is a disclaimer, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm not confirming or denying this is the case, but not all facilities are good facilities. And this, you know, is coming from interacting with different places and being in a place, you know, not every facility is taking in patients for the right reasons. Sometimes we, in this field, don't do enough, in my opinion. I've learned that there are good and bad, there's beautiful and there's ugly. And it's a very interesting field to be in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to say about it. Oh, working with the MHTs and the security teams is bomb. Guys, I will tell you my approach to every relationship. I try to make friends with everybody. I think there's a time to push back and a time not to. For me, it's about developing relationships so that if I do happen to need your support later down the line, I want to be able to call on that. So I try to do as many deposits up front as I can. And then, you know, I want to be nice. I want to play nice with people. I do the same thing with our referral sources, even when I'm saying no. And people get crappy, they get shitty, guys. I'm not playing. There's no better word for it than that. Referral sources will be pissed off if you deflect a client, because we won't take every patient, right? They will be pissed off if you say to them, like, this person's behavioral acuity is too high for our facility, or we don't have the appropriate program. Well, what is it? Well, if you call me and you tell me that the person had to be chemically restrained several times, but then when you talk to them they were calm, that doesn't mean we're going to take that person. You know, so different things like that. And they will try to get snippy and want to know the why. I don't really have to tell you the why. You're not my boss. And I consulted my boss before I called you to tell you we're not taking them. During shift change, nurses don't like to take patients in, but oh well, not my problem. Get with your supervisor. You know, certain things like that. So like every facility is going to have the little things that are probably like least favorable. But all in all, guys, it's about the patient. It's about making sure that you are making the experience as positive as possible for them given what they're dealing with, and making sure that you are crossing your T's and dotting all of your I's. I don't want to do an amendment to this video, so let me just think for a minute and see if there's anything else.
2 hours later.
I don't think there's anything else. It's definitely different in that, like I said at the very beginning, guys, a lot of people don't come to psychiatric hospitals voluntarily, so it's just dealing with that piece of it and feeling comfortable explaining to them. You know, you make it less about the sickness, the disorder, the illness that they're experiencing difficulty with right now, and you try to find a silver lining or a benefit to them so that they're not constantly guarded or constantly escalated. I think that's one tip I would give people. Yeah. So I hope that you guys found this video to be informative and helpful. If you have questions or if there's anything that I left out that you'd like to know more about, let me know in the comments down below, and I will come back and do a Q&A. So thanks guys for watching My Psych Life. I will see you guys next time.